So just like the saying goes that not all witches are Wiccan, I will argue that not all Hellenic polytheists are pagan. So forgive me if my hair's a little messed up and messy. It's like 2 in the morning. Woke up and I can't sleep, so I decided just to make a video about a topic I wanted to speak on. So when we say pagan, in the traditional sense, in the historical sense, it meant villager. I'm sure a lot of modern pagans know the story that basically meant at the time not Christian. So in other words, it was derogatory as in heathen, out of style. But when we say pagan nowadays, what do we think about? Do we think about it in the terms of the traditional sense of not being part of the Islam community, part of the Christian community, part of the Christian Judaism community? So as they would call us pagans for not worshiping their God. Like they're a bunch of heathens, they're a bunch of pagans. In that sense, then yes. So would Buddhism be considered paganism? Hinduism would be considered paganism. Shinto would be considered paganism. But do we really think and call Buddhists pagan? Some do when they think of it in the broad sense, but traditionally, does the main world call Richard Gere a pagan in the same sense as connecting him to a Wiccan when we say pagan? So, with that said, are Hellenic polytheists, in the traditional sense, pagan? So that's the point of this video today when we really think about it. I mean, even thinking of it that way, Scientology would be considered pagan because it's not in part of Islam, Christianity, or Judaism. So is John Travolta and is Tom Cruise pagan? So they would be pagan in the, again, traditional sense of being a heathen kind of pagan, as in derogatory, not being part of a Christian, Islam, or Judaism faith. So they are infidels. So really, when you think about it, so what makes a pagan? So when we say pagan, in the modern terms, does Hellenic polytheism fit in the traditional, in the modern sense, not traditional sense? So when we say pagan, we think about nature worship. We think about, sometimes we can think about witchcraft. And in the traditional sense, is Hellenism, in its purest, strictest form, I should say, really pagan? So it depends what you do. So that's when they say that Hellenic polytheism has many paths, and there's not one true path in it. So some practices of Hellenic polytheism and Hellenism can be considered pagan because that person would focus on the witchcraft side of it, for example. Or they may have a really strong connection to Mother Gaia and feel it right there. But when it comes to someone that is just worshiping the gods, they don't really focus on nature, that nature doesn't really come first in their practice, that their practice is honoring and praying to the gods and trying to live the best life they can by honoring the gods and people. That's not really paganism. That's spirituality. That's spirituality just like, in a way, not to compare, but just like we would call the main three, where you're honoring God or the gods, and except you're honoring multiple gods, and or possibly a single god. So I've done a video about honoring just a single god. Like if I only followed Apollo, for example, and he was the only god I prayed to, then, and that was all I do. I lived my life to honor Apollo and help people. So by default, even though I wouldn't practice witchcraft, I don't really honor nature like a Wiccan would say, or even worship nature. just because I honor a different God, that's a single God, outside of the main three, would I really be pagan? And I'd say no. That's why we say that Buddhists, in the modern sense, are not pagans. That's why we say Scientologists are not pagans. That's why we say that Hindus are not pagans in the modern sense. So we wouldn't lump a Hindu with a Wiccan and say they're in the same class, because they have different beliefs. So, but don't let that hurt you or make you feel sad because you consider yourself pagan. I mean, after all, it's just labels that we as people throw on to each other. So label yourself as you will, but also just think of it in the modern terms. In a way, it depends what you practice. So if you do witchcraft, if you put nature first, if you do this and mix it with Hellenism, then yeah, you're pagan. And yeah, in the traditional sense, you're a pagan if you don't follow the main three by dictionary terms. But in the modern way of thinking, if you're just honoring the gods and living your life, and you're not really putting nature first, again, then are you pagan in that sense, as a Wiccan is pagan? So, with that said, I don't really consider myself pagan because because when you think, again, it's not really about, when it comes to my spirituality, I respect nature, but it's not I don't follow the Wiccan wheel, we should say. I don't honor nature the way, the way, again, traditional pagans would. And I don't practice witchcraft really at all. I used to, but the more I've gotten into Hellenic Polytheism, the more it's been just towards reverence towards the gods and honoring the gods and letting that help my day-to-day life as I honor the gods. So just like someone that practices Hinduism, that I pray to the gods and honor the gods and think on the gods. So I consider myself a Hellenic polytheist, but I call myself a pagan because of the traditional sense of being not in the main spiritual religions of the world. So that's where I am in life. And so yeah. So yeah, that is just a video I've been wanting to do for a while. I have a list of notes of all the video ideas I have, and is Hellenic Polytheism really paganism has always been one of the ones that I've had listed on my notes to do a video on for a while. So I hope this helped you guys out, and I'm sure you guys have 1,000 different views because everyone practices their spirituality all different ways, which is really cool. Anyway guys, I hope you guys like this video. I'm really thankful for you guys. You guys are awesome. And I'll see you next time. I'll talk to you later. Bye.